I'm going to begin by asking Stephen, I mean, for the second consecutive project, you've tackled a sort of real-life set of events, but from the perspective of a sort of journalist covering the issues.
Yes.
I was just wondering what it is about that kind of outside view that you find quite appealing.
Well, it's just I'm tempted to say it's just a coincidence. In other words, we bought David's book, so David Walsh's book, so a journalist was at the centre of it, and Steve Coogan wrote the film about, my mind's gone blank, the journalist, with Philomena. So it was on the page before I got there. But on both occasions, the journalists, both Steve and David Walsh, were interesting people and not particularly representative of their profession, which, as you know, I despise.
You've admitted you've never been a big fan of cycling, nor paid too much attention to it. I mean, do you think that having that kind of disconnect was actually quite beneficial to this project, that you were able to come in without any kind of emotional...
It's a very, very odd profession. In the end, you realise that you have to be both involved and detached at the same time.
But do you think that... Did you then approach this as a kind of a fictional crime story? Did you try and take this away from the reality and just try and view it as more of just what was on the page?
I don't know that I can separate those things. I mean, I knew these events had happened and that I was surrounded by people who had sort of been there when David Miller ended up in prison too. So they all knew a great deal about it. So to me, it's both fiction and fact.
I mean, of course, this is based on the book, but was that your sort of sole research, or did you
You can't move for books about Lance Armstrong. There's a wonderful one called In the Bus, but not a mention of drugs.
And of course, there was the Alex Gibney documentary. Was that a point of reference to you at all?
No.
I mean, I've got to be honest, I've always found cycling on the television to be a little bit dull to watch, quite monotonous.
So how does the film compare?
I thought it looked like when you actually saw the cycling events, it looked incredible. I was wondering how you were able to make it so compelling visually.
I too thought it was slightly dull and monotonous, so I thought, well, I better do better than that.
And it's not an easy role for an actor to play somebody who's not just sort of still alive, but very much someone we know very well, very kind of identifiable. I mean, why Ben Foster? What do you think it was about him that could capture this character?
It just seemed a good idea. I mean, I've never thought of anybody who could do it better. So then I think he's astonishing. So in retrospect, you think, oh, well, I got that one right. I mean, I don't quite know how I could have... But you make the decision quite cavalierly. I remember bringing him over so that other people could see him. And so you set up some mechanism in your head, but it's quite subtle and it's hard to see.
When it comes to capturing a sort of renowned figure and their sort of quite distinctive sensibilities, after the Queen, I guess everything else must be a bit of a walk in the park.
Yes, that's one way of looking at it, yes. Yes, quite right.
Do you know if Ben met Lance, and did you want them to meet? Was that something you were keen on?
I think I didn't. I kept saying, no, you should have nothing to do with him. He's a very controlling person, and this film should be made out of his control and should be seen to be out of his control. But I think Ben did actually try to meet him and was rejected.
And do you know if Lance has seen the film, or do you even care if he's seen it?
Well, I mean, I'm curious because... what you're waiting for him to do is acquire wisdom, which he seems not to have acquired yet, and to accept what he did, because he still seems not to have a clue what he did.
So what do you make of Lance Armstrong? Are you able to find pity with him?
Well, I think he's suffered, and like Methuselah. I mean, I think he's had a really bad 3 years, and you can't quite imagine what must go on in his head at night.
And when you're making a movie about, and someone is the sort of subject, the lead role in your film, are you able do you have to try and find a way to like them, to find pity with them, to understand who they are and why they did what they did?
No. I don't know why he was horrible to people. I don't know why he bullied people. I don't know why he destroyed people's lives. I've no idea why, except out of not very nice bits of his... I mean, I can see that Adolf Hitler did that. So people have bad sides and good sides. But I don't think it's anything more than that. If you're that kind of person, that's what you do.
And of course, next up you have Florence Foster Jenkins. I was wondering, for those who aren't aware, what's her story?
She was the worst singer ever to sing at Carnegie Hall.
So what was it about that particular story that appealed to you as a filmmaker?
Well, I hope it's very funny. I hope it'll come out in the spring.
Oh, great. Looking forward to it. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Not at all.
Much appreciated.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey,